What's up, DFS fans? Happy week 6 of the NFL. It is here. We got basketball starting in less than the week. The MLB playoffs are in full swing. It's a great time to be a sports fan, but we want to talk about week six of the NFL right now.
It's funny, there's all these things going on, but it seems like the NFL is always like the oracle. Everything just stops, for the NFL.
This is true. All right, guys, week 6. It's crazy to think that we're this far into the season already. Seems like just yesterday I was just fiending for this thing to start, but we are here already. Anyways, if you happen to be new to the station, guys, you want more videos? We talk baseball, basketball, football. We put out a lot of information on a daily basis. Press that red button that says subscribe to get more info. And as always, the thumbs up is sincerely appreciated from anybody willing to give it.
Always.
If you guys want to join the team, like I said, we do cover basketball. NBA starts in less than a week now. It's a big sport for the DFS community. We will provide a public video every day like this with a couple of picks. Then we'll do our private video for our members, which will break down everybody on the slate. And then we'll do a daily summary at the end of the day, as well as put you in private Facebook groups where we can talk updates and things like that. Because we all know that the NBA turns quickly, and it was back at it again yesterday.
For sure. I love the NBA videos are really fun too. It is almost like a median between football and baseball, and they're really fun. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I'm pumped for NBA. NBA is just so much fun. I hope everybody had a good week last week. Cash lineup wins again. That's 4-1 on the season, 29-6 over the past 35 weeks. I'd love to help you try to achieve the same results within cash games if you want to join on up. Game didn't even work out how we expected. You know what I mean? Like Pittsburgh pounded the ball with the rock a lot. Atlanta was bad on their side of the ball. But fortunately, guys like Austin Hooper and the Bills defense did enough to bring us through to the mountaintop.
Bills D, Austin Hooper, and then we got touchdowns when we needed from Valdez-Scantling and David Johnson. We got 3 touchdowns there, which we really needed.
That's the hard part about DFS to me is you got to get just good enough at it that on your bad weeks, you're still just good enough to reach the cash line. Line got it by about 10 points last week, I think it was. Wasn't a great week, but a win is a win.
Exactly. We'll take it and move on.
All right. Let's talk about eating chalk this week. And I view Matt Ryan very similar to how I viewed Big Ben last week. And last week, like I just mentioned, the game worked out poorly in my eyes for what I expected out of Big Ben. But he still hit a 3.27 ratio on a week that required a 2.87 from your players. Big floor, big upside for Matt Ryan this week. And he's going to be popular because he deserves to be really popular. His DFS scores in home games this year, 31, 43, 32. I prefer quarterbacks at home, which is a big part of why I preferred Big Ben over Matt Ryan last week. The Atlanta defense is terrible, so it forces them to score. Tampa Bay pass, I put defense in quotations marks because it's bottom barrel against the pass. And really, this is just what you brought up, Matt, when we were talking them over. It's a last-ditch effort for Atlanta. I mean, they're 1-4. They don't win this game. Even though the season's pretty much done, it's officially done. So he hits everything from every angle with the exception of being low-owned in GPPs. That's the only thing he won't cover.
Yeah, he won't be low-owned. But the other part of this is if you scour quarterbacks, and obviously we've done that because we're making this video now, there aren't that many attractive options. So there aren't that many guys that I think are viable pivot options and drop-down options. So with the spot that Ryan is in, and we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum so far this year, you don't have to be different in every spot. If Ryan goes off here, I won't be surprised at all if he's on a GPP winning team. You just have to kind of differentiate yourself in other areas, like where other people aren't going to. Ryan just seems like a crush spot this week. I don't see a game flow where he doesn't ball. The only thing that can happen, and obviously we've seen this, is they run touchdowns in or turnovers. Obviously there's situations that can happen, but this game plays out 100 times. How many times do you think he has over 30 DK points?
A lot of the times. And that's kind of what I liked about Big Ben last week. I did not envision a game scenario where it did not work out in his favor. Everything I thought wouldn't happen, good, didn't happen. And yet he still provided a proper ratio. And that's how I view Matt Ryan this week. His floor is solid, but the upside is huge. So if the game does work out how you want it to, you get all the upside in the world. But even if the game flow isn't exactly what you expect, you're still going to get that floor that's not going to hurt your lineup. So the floor ceiling upside on him this week is real. The only knock on him is he's going to be high owned, but I don't even mind that for all the points that you just said, because there's very often, if you look at the big lineups of winning big money every week, there's always at least a few chalky players in there. Very rarely do you see a lineup with big money that doesn't have several guys, at least 20, 30% of.
Yeah, my only thing is, and this is kind of out there. I know you'll get on board with this. This is out there though, and it's for only like deep players. I'm really getting on board with something you always talk about and playing quarterbacks that are coming from behind. I don't see that in this game. And you can't only choose a quarterback because you think he's playing from behind. If it works out, that's even better. So I'm kind of juggling with that. That's the only thing about Ryan here.
That's the nice part about Atlanta's defense being so bad. They can't stop anybody. And even though I'm not a big Jameis Winston guy,
He's in play.
They got legit weapons on the other side of the ball. And Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Godwin's pretty good. Cameron Braid is low slouch. They're going to put some points up more than likely this week against Atlanta, forcing them to keep the scoring train going. And that is where a lot of the desire of looking at Atlanta from a DFS format comes up on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, when I'm talking about the high-priced chalky quarterback, it's tough to get away from him.
Yeah, because you hate eating high-priced chalk, but it's high-priced chalk for a reason. And that moves into a secondary pick, and that is Julio Jones pairing with him in one of those classic GPP stacks. Tampa Bay's secondary is just awful. Everyone can eat. Sanu can eat. Calvin Ridley can eat. Everybody can eat this week because of how bad Tampa Bay's secondary is. Julio Jones coming off a big-time letdown performance. But again, back is to the wall for this team. Get the ball to your best player. Now, last year at home against Tampa Bay, Julio had his classic big game of the season when he went for 12, 253, and 2. Not saying that's going to happen again, but it doesn't discourage you from going after it. And like some of you brought up earlier this week, people seem to be souring on Julio because he can't score touchdowns. He's probably not going to be as popular as you would think this week.
No, we thought he was going to be like super chalk last week, and he came in like sub 15% in cash games because people didn't go with the high-priced wideouts. So I don't think he's going to get that much love this week either. And here's another point that we haven't even brought up yet. You know, we're all in the industry talking about how Julio hasn't caught touchdowns, he hasn't been as productive, blah, blah, blah. Like, do we seriously not think that they know this? They're going to do whatever it takes to get Julio the ball and get him his numbers. And you talk about this point all the time. As much as Tampa might game plan and try to stop Julio, they don't have the manpower to do so. So I think that he goes off in this spot. Obviously, it's risky because people have said that every week. I'm not one of those people that have said that every week, though. So I pick my spots with Julio, and this is one of them.
And even though he hasn't gotten in the end zone, he's had some lackluster performances, he's still averaging 20 DK points a game, which off of a salary of $8K isn't even that big of a letdown. It's only a little bit of a letdown. So it does give you a little bit of a floor. It's hard to imagine Atlanta not putting up some points here. And like you brought up the thing that I always say, which is they just don't have the horses to stop them. I can game plan all I want to go get into a fight with an MMA guy. I'm still going to lose in 3 seconds because I am not capable of being able to be competitive with this person. It's not physically in me. So they don't have anybody who's going to stop anybody from Atlanta, period.
Yeah, I'm with that, and I think that it's my top GPP stack. And like you kind of said, Julio's not even that expensive at all here.
Right? He's not like he's 9,500 or anything. He doesn't really kill your salary cap.
Mm-mm.
All right. We've talked about some very, very popular players on the week, or at least Matt Ryan will be real popular. Julio will be semi-popular again, would be my guess. Chris Carson, on the other hand, is a guy that I don't really have a good read on his ownership for the week. Now, what's to like about him? Several things. First off, it's not a coincidence or an odd occurrence that Carson has been very good over the past 2 games. I know you talked about this earlier in the week, Matt. Seattle has made it a point. They want to run the ball. They want to get back into what they used to do with Marshawn Lynch, which makes Russell Wilson a better quarterback. Run the ball, opens up play action, gets their offensive linemen blocking downhill, which offensive linemen love. Offensive linemen love to run block. They hate to pass block. In Seattle's offensive linemen, they can't pass block worth shit. So they want to be able to get some run blocking. It ups their confidence. Over the last 2 games, 51 carries, 228 yards and a touchdown. He's cheap. You don't need a lot out of Chris Carson for him to be an effective play. And I know he's not big in the pass catching game, but when you got 51 carries over 2 games, that's a lot of touches. The Raiders are not good. And they're not good versus the run because they're not good at most things. They're 27th in yards per carry allowed, 28th in total yards allowed in the game. And the only thing you worry about here, and this is kind of like what we talked about with Aaron Jones' last bullet point last week, is there's one potential scenario where you get a little bit scared for him, and that is if the opponent gets a big lead. Hurt Aaron Jones last week. It could hurt Chris Carson, but how scared are you of the Raiders getting up 17-0?
I'm not scared, but it's not like it couldn't happen.
Right? Everybody has one point that could go against them. I can't game plan around it, and I'm less scared of a guy at 4,400.
Listen, it's so minimal. I don't even think you have to mention it. You mentioned it, and I get it, and it's obviously out there. But No, we don't expect a game flow scenario where Oakland's up 21-0 here. It could always happen, sure, but no, we don't expect that. Also, this game's played in Mexico City, I believe.
Ooh, okay. All right. Either way, I like Chris Carson. He's cheap. What do you need out of a guy at 4,400? You're looking for a target score on DraftKings of about 15 points, give or take. It's not that hard to accomplish if you get one catch for 10 yards and you run the ball as much as he does. If he gets in the end zone, he's virtually guaranteed of giving you a positive performance. So he is the guy that they're giving the ball to a lot. I know Mike Davis has taken some carries away, but 51 carries over 2 games. Expect him to get the rock a lot against a really bad defense.
Yeah, and I guess their O-line maybe isn't pass blocking. They suck, like you said, but against the run, now it might be who they've played recently, but like you kind of mentioned a couple of times, they've been good, and it's no coincidence he's been good. I'm about it. Kind of a nice filler, nice cog in the machine, if you will. I mean, all formats I can get on board here at this price.
Definitely. He's very, very cheap, and there is upside potential there. Also, the floor is so low on this price. It lets you build other things. It covers me from a lot of different angles, and I'm good in all formats.
Agree with that.
All right, next up, let's go back to our sweet spot, and that is tight ends against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, do you guys know a lot about CJ? Probably not. He hasn't been that active within the DFS community for a long time, but Tyler Eifert is out now, and it is possible that Tyler Kroft will be out as well. Now, either way, CJ is the starter. He's the guy that's going to be in there for more of the snaps if you watch what happened last week. But it doesn't hurt if both other tight ends are out, and you're really the only tight end that's in place. All we have to do here is talk about how bad Pittsburgh is against the tight end. This is 4 straight weeks now that opposing tight ends have reached at least 85 yards. We ran Hooper everywhere last week, and he basically hit value on the first drive because of how bad Pittsburgh is against tight ends. They run a zone over 70% of the time. It opens up huge holes for tight ends to run short routes, turn around, and just get uncontested, easy catches. And I just don't know how popular he's going to be. It seems obvious to us, but last week, like, in what makes no sense to me, Vance was 50% owned and Hooper was 9. Like, I don't know if the whole DFS community is wise to the fact that Pittsburgh is just awful against tight ends.
This might be the most obvious play on the slate for me, and it's not obviously not a guarantee because it's CJ Uzomah. So at any point he could throw up a 0. But I mentioned him to you, like basically just assuming that you would get on board here because it's the point that you've kind of been harping on, and I'm fully on board with it. Pittsburgh sucks against the tight end. Uzomah is no stud, but he's no scrub either in the sense that he actually looked good last week from what I saw. And I know that, right when Eifert got hurt, he was the guy talking about how Cincy has the best tight end depth in the league. He was not shy to say that at all. I like that confidence. If Cincy's smart, they'll get him the ball a little bit because he'll be wide open. At 2, I'm with you. This is a guy, as far as I'm concerned, should be one of the most popular guys on the slate, and he's not going to be close to that.
Do you want to know when I would stop fearing tight ends against Pittsburgh? It would be if they brought really crappy wide receivers to the game. And that's not Cincinnati's problem because they have Tyler Boyd and AJ Green. Now, if you were to bring in a team that was like, say it was Philadelphia and Alshon was still hurt, for example, like you wouldn't fear those wide receivers at all. So maybe they could get out of that soft zone and they would focus on Zach Ertz. You can't do that against Cincinnati. AJ Green is clearly like, maybe he's not a top 5 wide receiver, but he's in that next precipice below it. You have to fear AJ Green. Tyler Boyd turning some heads this year. Very solid player. You game plan to stop those guys in Joe Mixon, and you basically tell them, if you want to beat us with CJ it up all day long, boys, and that's what they might be able to do. You don't need a lot on 3K. What are you looking for right here? 4 catches and 50 yards or 5 catches and 40 yards? That's child's play compared to what they've been giving up all season.
Yeah, I'm so with you there. I do think that Ertz would eat against this D2, but I get your point.
Because, again, goes back to what you talked about or kind of what I talked about. They just don't have the bodies in order to stop somebody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could talk about wanting to stop whoever, but they can't do it. And, yeah, if they so to your point, I'm with you. If they gamed plan to stop Uzomah, I'm sure they could take him out. But why the hell would they do that?
Yeah. So AJ Green goes for 250 and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
All right, last up, I wanted to talk about a defense this week. I don't think we've talked about one for a while. And I'm looking at the Dolphins defense. This is one of those weeks. I don't know if there's anybody in the DF industry who's more prone to paying up for defenses and crush spots than I am. I'm all about it. But guess what? This is like the 3rd week in a row where I'm going to go sub 3K in defense, or at least that's the way I'm leaning early in the week. And it's because we don't have big price defenses and crush spots this week. The Vikings look very good, but the Vikings are a better real life defense than they are fantasy defense. They don't get interceptions for the most part. They don't play an aggressive D, and they are 4K. You can get a nice discount here on the Dolphins. They're cheap. They're at home. They're averaging 2 interceptions per game. Turnovers, so it gives you defensive touchdown opportunities, and that's where you need the big scores from. And despite what we saw against Tampa Bay, the Bears' offense is not one we fear. We fear their defense. Your biggest thing that you're scared of right here is that they cause multiple turnovers that give the Bears a short field. That could happen. That's definitely a possibility. But this game screams defensive slugfest. They're third in the league in QB rating allowed, which, again, that could be slightly skewed by the fact that they haven't played against a lot of good quarterbacks outside of Tom Brady. And they're 7th in yards per carry allowed on the defensive side of the ball. So they're doing a good job on both sides. This game's got one of the lowest projected point totals of the entire week. So it covers me from all sides.
So we didn't even really talk about this yet. But I love Miami's D this week. They were like the D in any dummy lineup I've made, like, which was fairly few. Like, they're the D I'm looking at. I love them this week for every reason you've said. Also, this is like a my type play because recency bias is full force here. With the Bears coming off that amazing performance the last time they played, and the Dolphins just giving up a 17-0 performance. I'm so about this. I can't even tell you.
Right, and I'm one who usually likes to pay up for defense, but there has to be a defense to pay up for. If Jacksonville was hosting Arizona this weekend and they were 4,100, I'd probably find a way to pay for them. But it doesn't exist. Again, Minnesota's defense has not been great this year, and even when it was a really good defense last year, it wasn't a great DFS defense. There's a difference between being a great DFS defense and being a great real-life defense. So it's not a place where I feel like I need to spend all the way up on D. So good. Glad you're on board. This was a pick that we hadn't talked about at all. It just seemed to me as a team that made a lot of sense and offers you some more cap space in order to pay up for better plays. Like last week, for example, like using Buffalo's defense everywhere allowed us so much flexibility. And you didn't feel as bad about a guy like Julio not giving you a ton of points because you were able to fit him, over somebody who was less expensive from somebody else had used because they had paid up for the Ravens defense.
Definitely. I am a little bit surprised that you like them. I'm very happy about it. I like them a lot. Basically every reason you said. I will say, like, if you have the money, Minnesota's defense is in a better spot than the Dolphins, which I'm sure you agree with. But
nice floor against Arizona.
Yeah. So like last week, it was Tennessee and Buffalo kind of in these spots. I like Minnesota this week more than I liked Tennessee last week. But I also like Miami this week a little more than I liked Buffalo last week. Okay,
that's fair. We settled them Buffalo through and through. I think you said, I think I ran them in every lineup but one.
Yeah, I started to like them. Basically, for what you just said about Miami, there was no other D to go to. So if you feel as good about the D that's, 2,300, 2,600 as the Ds that are 3K, why not?
All right, and Miami is an underrated defense. Again,
agreed.
Their stats might be a little bit up because of the weak opponents. And we saw they weren't very good against New England, but it's New England. You knew that they were going to come around. Wasn't that, I believe it was a Thursday night game too, wasn't it? Nope, that was a different one. No, that was cold.
Listen, like you said, they played like shit one game. That happens. They're not a great team, but their defense is underrated. And they played really well against Andy Dalton last week, who had been really good. They gave up that lead because of 2 defensive touchdowns. So I'm with you. Hopefully, like you kind of mentioned earlier, the Dolphins offense, doesn't get destroyed by the Bears defense. That's the biggest worry, but I don't really see that here.
Right. And the other point there that, going back to what we're saying, like, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Tom Brady's better than Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah. And I'm so with you because like people aren't going to go here. First off, they're just not going to go here because it's Miami. But second of all, because Trubisky balled, like that was so much more Tampa's D than Trubisky.
Right, like I'll give Trubisky credit. He played a great game, but Tampa Bay's defense is awful. Part of the reason we're looking at Matt Ryan this week, they suck.
Yeah, they suck, and they played like garbage too. So that combo is not good.
No, it's not. If you're bad and then play shitty, like that's just not a good combination if you want to win football games.
Right.
I don't know if you guys all know that. Yep, you do. All right. So if you're interested in a full-length breakdown, we do videos every single week where we'll break down every individual position, quarterbacks, running backs, and things like that. Sign up to be a member today. Our customers get all the videos. How do you sign up? Real easy. Just go to the website. Again, we got NBA starting in a couple of days here, guys. So it's a great time to get on board because DFS is about to get really, really popular again. We're in that weird time between baseball and the start of basketball where we got like 1-game baseball slates and 2-game NBA preseason, all the stuff most people aren't interested in playing. I played both last night. It's just it's such a weird game by comparison. Like I somehow won a baseball lineup despite everybody being bad except for Dylan Betances. Like it's just a weird DFS game when you get into these abstract 1-game playoffs and 2-game preseason games. So like we got big stuff coming up with the real life NBA. Don't listen to us, listen to the customers.
And I know NBA is they put their pricing out for the Thursday's games next week, so it's exciting. We're pumped. This is a big time in the industry. So
Tuesday's games, isn't it? Start of the week Tuesday.
Oh yeah, Tuesday. Excuse me.
Cool. I want to make sure I was correct on that one. So yeah, less than a week and NBA will be up here. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching. See you guys in a little bit as we talk a few other sports.
Thanks, guys.